for working class Americans, weak on crime, weak on equal rights, weak on national security, weak on rejecting racism, weak on moral
There's my justice warrior.
You know, she says, hey, look, this is...
There she is. Let's go out to the shop, guys. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, huh? Screaming at the computer like that, huh? Stay away from politics, huh? Stay away from politics.
Oh, no, you're politicians, because there are some numbnuts out there.
Oh, some numbnuts.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
All right, there we go. Missy Jen has spoken. Now let's go out to the shop. I always have Georgie, who understands me, don't you, Georgie? Well, guys, some weeks ago, Handsome Robert brought up his Pioneer SX-1250 to be lubricated and worked on. There was some scratchiness in the controls. Unfortunately, in transportation out of his home down in the East Bay, the unit was dropped down the steps, and now it's not working. Well, I'm charged with the unenviable task of trying to diagnose what's the equivalent of working on a 747-800 super jumbo jet here. There is more wiring in this SX-1250 than you can shake a stick at. So, well, we'll be lucky if we can get it. Well, we should be able to get it going again. I'll go down some of the theory of the things I do to assess electronic items, especially ones that arrive at the shop DOA, dead on arrival. It's quite an interesting process. See what I mean? What a jungle out here, this SX-1250. I do have it sitting up on a piece of carpet. It's really critical if you're ever working on electronic products that you have to preserve the fit, the finish, everything about them, plus ones that weigh so much. This weighs about 70 pounds or so. It is a monster to deal with. I don't even want to work on the faceplate. You know, some things like lubricating controls and things like that, the less that you mess these big units with the face plates, the better off you are. You know, if you can't lubricate things from the rear and have access down there, well, I just don't fiddle with it. It's not working. If the unit is working good, then lubricate what you can. And there's alternate ways to get controls to remove some of the scratchiness. Within a very aggressive moving back and forth. We'll also repolish some of the contacts and remove some of the corrosion. Anyway, here it is. When we plug it in and we put the power switch on, we really have nothing in the way of power. Nothing lights up. So how do we go about assessing where the problem could be in this jungle? And believe me, there's more boards over here, control boards. Well, it's all a very legitimate and a very careful process of routing how power comes into the unit and checking various things like fuses, checking them out for continuity, checking out connections. And the connections is the critical thing. This is why it's important to talk to a customer, because a customer can tell you what happened like the last time that the unit was functioning well, and if it suffered some catastrophic event, like maybe a soda or a beer spilled down. I've had plenty of them, or something that shorts components out. These units by the mid to late 1970s, 80s were all componentized with circuit boards. They didn't want technicians to fool around and try to work on individual circuit boards. They wanted to get isolating the problem and then just change out the whole board. Things like tuning you see down here, those things rarely go wrong. They're not pulling a lot of power through there. They're just pulling in very weak signals and running them through the amplification circuits. Most of the things that usually go wrong are right in here. The power circuits above you, down below here, you have big filter capacitors. You can see here the output transistors down there. Big NEC units. This is a whopper of a gigantic unit here, big output. But usually, inevitably, when there's power involved, it's usually something in the power control board or in the power circuitry, okay? Other components like tuning, volume controls, things like that, they rarely ever fail. It's really where you're running the most power through with the amplification section here, and also with the filtering and the input that the problems arise. So, okay, let's talk about the importance of talking to the customer. I've been repairing vintage audio and electronic systems for so many years I can't even count them anymore. But always the most important thing and the most important guide was having a pre-repair discussion with the customer. You know, I got the Magnavox, the 1961 21 tube stereo console in the house there. I asked the customer whom I purchased from what were the symptoms that were going on when the unit failed. Well, I plugged the electric guitar in, and I wanted to use the unit as an amplifier, and something popped and blew inside. Well, was able to go inside and find out that some of the circuitry capacitor in the circuit had blown, and was a relatively easy fix, but I reconditioned the whole unit. You can see how gloriously beautiful it is in the house. You can see the whole playlist, 1820 sections, I don't know what it is, rescue and repair of that beautiful unit. Another time somebody dropped a beer can turned over on a unit, and they turned it on and popped, snap, crackle, pop, the unit shorts out. In this particular case, talking to Handsome Robert, who owns this baby, he mentioned that in transporting this down the steps out of his house, that the unit had actually fallen on the step and maybe gone down a step or two. Therefore, we know that is what we call an impact event on this particular unit. And as such, what typically happens there is that something will break loose, and maybe a circuit board will crack under the strain of the big filter capacitors mounted on top of it. Maybe some boards or components move inside, they stretch some wires and break them. You know, we're looking at things that cause breaks, disconnections, things of that nature. What usually never, 99.99% of the time, components don't fail because of a drop. The capacitors don't fail, the resistors don't fail, the fuses typically don't fail. It always and inevitably tends to be cracked circuit boards because of the force of impact or disconnection. So that should be our very first point to when we're assessing this. We need to be very careful. We need to use our multimeter to do things like continuity checks to make sure that we're getting power through certain sections of the board, that circuits are being completed. And using a multimeter like this, the Fluke 117, is a great way. Once you get familiar with working this, these things work fantastic. So what we got to figure out is why the power's not coming onto the unit, and then secondarily reach what we can to lubricate it, close it back up as soon as possible, and call it done. Okay, on these big units like this, technicians really don't like to work on these things because of the massive weight involved. The weight can magnify the chances of scratches, drops here in the shop, problems with further components. And like I said, there's a lot of ways to deal with issues that don't necessitate necessarily having to take the unit apart to remove things like scratches and scratching and intermittency in the output. Okay, let's go ahead and let's get our multimeter turned on here. I'm going to put it on the gonna go ahead and put this on the continuity here, and once we do that, we'll be able to check some of the circuits here and make sure we don't have any big breaks here. All right, that'll help us narrow it down. As I set it up, I have my meter here, and it's not necessary that I look at the meter. All I'm using is to test continuity in wiring, and you can hear when a circuit is connected and closed, and you can hear an actual beep. So what I'm doing is going around and just doing some basic testing to make sure I didn't disrupt anything like the winding and the capacitance and big filter caps, to make sure that they're okay, and to hit the to make sure that the wiring is all right on that here. And then I just go around and check various continuity. make sure everything is okay. What I'm going to particularly do is pay attention. This is the power section over here, okay? This is where the big line power comes into the unit. This is where I have to make sure I'm getting a throughput. I don't want to put power to the unit because I might have a free wire shooting around here. I want to do as much visual inspection as possible without any power on, because if I mess around with the power here and start pulling and just indiscriminately feeling for loose connections, you know what's going to happen? I could create a catastrophic short, and you never want to do that. You want to make sure that nothing ever leaves your shop in worse shape than it ever came in. So we only have to really, I think, function on to really test on this particular level here on this unit. And just make sure we're getting our continuity in the power areas here. So I'm going to continue with my testing, and we'll see what we get here. Checking all fuses here. All fuses are good with no problem at all. Got a big boy over here is fine. So that seems okay. Now, since all my basic components on the power side, no caps seem to have been disrupted here. You'll get that initial charge of check of continuity. I don't see any big issues of any breaks. All the fuses seem to be intact. I want to now get my magnifying glass out, and I want to examine the whole power trail here, coming through the line cord, coming through the switching, the slave switched power over here for other components that can plug in, such as tape decks or reel-to-reel phonographs and things like that. I want to trace the power now into the unit, coming over to things like the power, the on and off switch, and just make sure we're getting basic power to the unit, okay? What I'm doing is tracing around the everything is color coded here for a purpose. The red and the black being typically associated with the power. So tracing this all around, I don't see anything that looks like it's disrupted over this part. So now I'm going to put my attention to the power switch that we'll see in the front here. I have found the problem, but before I disclose to you what it is, understand this. When joints are soldered, using solder to maybe join a wire to a component, like a switch or something like that, sometimes they can be brittle in nature. And the force of impacts can cause breaks, can cause catastrophic breaks in them. I've now found one in tracing the power input from the line cord in up to the on-off power switch. Let's see what happened here. I didn't see it at first because everything looked like it was a-okay. And looking down there, now remember the power's off. I don't have the power on. I don't have it plugged in. But when I went in here and started to do a little wiggle here, guess what? We're not even connected. We had a breakdown here. Evidently this connection, let me get a little more light down here. This connection, and I'm trying to get the light on there. You can see where it was supposed to be down there. This thing has just snapped on here and just come off. Just the solder connection broke that right there, and that's not unusual. So let's clean this end up, make a mechanical connection on there, and then we'll solder it and see what we get. Okay, hopefully that'll solve our problem. I'm going to try to take about a ½ inch off of this carefully. I'm going to nip around a little bit. I want enough just to make a mechanical connection. Because this is a power wire, it is a very heavy gauge. Okay, all right, there we got that. It's not even braided. I've cleaned the end of that. I'm going to take my needle nose pliers. I'm going to put a little hook on the end of this. That way I can hook it around the place where it broke off. It's important to make an initial mechanical connection. Don't just try to hold something on and solder it. You need to have it mechanically connected first before you go to solder it. So my little hook, I'll be able to show you in a minute, allows me to make that mechanical connection to hold on there while I get the then I can come in with the solder and it won't jump around. So I'll show you in a minute. So I put light on, you can see that I have a mechanical, I have a hook on that. I'm going to compress that even more so the interior of that hook there is really grabbed down on that power switch tab there, okay? I've got my soldering iron heating. I'm going to go ahead and solder that once I get that crimped down really well. Get that joint good and hot first before you flow the solder to it. Okay. There is our completed section. Now we're going to very carefully put it on the variac here and bring up the power, and we'll see what we get. Okay, let's see if we can get the power back. Some people will ask, why do you go through a variac first? Why not just plug it in and put the power on, just in case there's some other issue in here I'm not aware of, by very slowly bringing the power to the unit, because I'm not sure that's the only damage that was done. Yeah, I think I've got a good connection, really great connection on that, but who else knows? I don't have no idea. Could be a multiple. There have been compound incidents here. But by bringing the power up very slowly, I can see early on if something's getting hot before just throwing the power to it in a huge 120 surge. Could just smoke a component, and then I've got really bigger problems on here, okay? So I'm going to turn the power switch on here, and we're going to sit the camera over here. We'll see if we can bring the unit to life, okay? All right, I can see we're already got some lighting in there, so that's a very good sign. Okay, and let's put, I think it's on FM. Let's continue to bring the power up. Everything looks good. I'm just stopping a minute here. I'm looking very closely at the board. Make sure all the boards, make sure nothing's smoking, just coming in feeling, make sure nothing's getting hot. Okay, it looks good. I think we got that all the way up. Okay, there we go. It's on muting. Let's put the power up some more. We're up to the full 120. Let's see if we're on AM. So you can see Robert smiling now. What a unit! I like to run my own. Music. Then I don't have to worry about the copyright police undoing all my effort in my work here. So I just use the phone as an MP3, and then I run in just like what do I run in? Just something like Tchaikovsky's War of 1812 Overture. I just feed that into the input, and that does a good job here, like the tape input. All right, that works all right. Okay, a nice looking unit, huh? I can't wait to seal it up. We're just going to lubricate what we can from the back. I have no intention of going beyond that. Repeat again, over.
Did you get that thing fixed yet?
You mean Handsome Robert's Pioneer stereo?
Yeah, that beautiful stereo from
I'm on it right now, honey. I'm doing my best.
You better get that fixed quick because he fed you a pretty good dinner last night.
10-4. Yes, he did. He did. Okay, thank you, boss.
You owe him big time.
Yes, I do. So let me go ahead and feed in my music now, and we'll get on to doing some testing on output here. Just feeding a little through the MP3 here into the auxiliary. Just doing a little testing here. Checking our balance. Scratchiness there. Let's see if we can get that out. Left channel scratchiness. Few people don't know there's other ways to remove scratchiness besides lubrication. And that is a persistent working back and forth of the control will brighten up the contact points. We've now removed virtually all of the static. I'm going to go ahead using this. Don't use regular lubricant. You'll kill your system, okay? I'm going to get in behind. I'm going to turn off all the power again and get a little lubrication for behind. I do not want to remove the front faceplate here. So let's go ahead and cut our power. Okay, and I'm using my auxiliary light here to get behind. It'll be a little hard for you guys to see. You're not going to be able to see it all. Maybe I can't turn that on the side, but I'm going to get back in behind there and put some lubricant in behind that. Power back on again. No scratchiness. Nice and clean, huh? Let's put our try our filters. Scratchiness there. Let's see if we can clean up some of our filters. See if we can reset. Okay. Might not be able to reach them behind. Let me see. Let's see if we can work it in. What I'm doing is polishing it, believe it or not. All right, I'm going to go see if I can work some more spray in here. Gone ahead and lubricated all the controls. Virtually all scratchiness has been removed by working in the contacts vigorously, the ones that I could here. I'm not going to remove boards to get lubricant down there. I'm not going to take off the back. I'm not going to remove this faceplate. Okay, that's a mug's game in here. You know, there's too many components, too many chances of shorts on the board. You want to keep things as simple as possible. The bottom line is there's no scratchiness. This was awful scratchy. The balance, volume is good. All your bass and treble controls. All of the switches. In my mind, that's as good as it gets. Everything's all lubricated. Filters clean, no scratchiness. Let's button her back up. It's the boss coming in, make sure, huh? Making sure I'm on the job. How's that sound? Huh? What size of this unit, Jen? I hate to have stuff this big in here because it's just the chances of being hurt and just scratched and stuff.
Yeah, it's a beautiful unit.
It's a beautiful unit.
And it works.
Thank you, honey. Yeah, it's got all the scratchiness out.
Well done.
It's running well.
Well,
I also set the bias inside, so everything's, all the output's good.
Great.
Balanced. Yeah, I hope he's happy. Very nice guy. All right, I'm going to finish up. Okay, last thing I want to do is give a soft rag cleaning here to the unit, the front. Be very careful not to scratch. Good soft cloth. And we'll go ahead and make sure everything's wrapped up good, and we will do the final. A handsome unit, huh? Pioneer SX-1250, the best of the best. What I'm doing now is just very lightly, I have some restorative finish, and what I'm going over top just takes out some of the very finest abrasions. It evens up the finish of the wood, promotes handsomeness. We're not trying to refinish it on here, but any scratches are removed. Gets a slight sheen to it. You never want shine. Fine furniture never has a shine to it. It always has a sheen, okay? Then we're going to finish up with a soft towel. We're going to clean up the faceplate here, and it should be good to go. All right, the trick is here. We just want to go very lightly. I just have a very reduced Windex here. And I wanted just very slight amount of Windex with just a lot of water. You can see this thing has a tremendous amount of dirt that's coming off. We don't ever want to scratch, push too hard here. Just get the basic dirt cleaned off. You can use a little screwdriver on the cloth to get the corners cleaned up really well. Run it along, get all the inserts right up to the edge. Polish the faceplate. We want to be as gentle as possible, and it doesn't have to be perfect. These things are built to last. Okay, I'm a minimalist when it comes to doing this type of work. I'm going to get down in the groove now between the glass. It fits on. And then I'm going to polish the knob, so to speak, here. Get in here on this one. This big tuning knob, as you can imagine, this takes a lot of fingerprints, and also the volume. They're the two that really take it. Okay, man, this unit looks grand now. And all the little buttons, control buttons, get them all cleaned off real good. She's all lubricated. She's all good. Let's take a look and see how she looks. What a beautiful unit. Let's skitter down the FM dial here.
Your dream project a reality.
Let's head on down. I have a small antenna hooked up, not a big one. See if we can pick up anything. It's clean. Very clean.
Harden cut to 198 on an and one as he drove down the lane. Replaces in a new Toyota.
This thing really kicks. Man, this is clean. Great tuning section.
Four assists, 14 apiece for Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green. Andre, a rebound and an assist away from a triple-double, and 13 points for Klay Thompson on his sore ankle with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Warriors got 10 points off.
Or to the Corby Auto Row or at platinum-chevy.com.
Nice unit. Wow, that sounds good. All right, let's finish with some Tchaikovsky. There it is, guys. Hanson Roberts Pioneer SX-1250. The best of the best. Imagine with nice speakers. Thanks for watching, everybody.